There's a lot of stuff that will be thrown together to try and, to serve the need. And you can get away with that for a while, but eventually, unfortunately, it can come back in spades. So
Yeah, yeah. A little bit of a shift, but I wonder if we kind of put our heads into day in the life of a client over these past 4 months. And I'm curious in particular about just a couple of arenas. One, what does the experience look like of how customer friendly are some of the applications and some of the other hands-on tooling that our clients are using? What did that look like through OE? And I think critically adjacent to that, what does that person's support feel like? I mean, I can only imagine with the amount of pressure that's on our clients or anyone in the industry that's really responsible for that open enrollment correspondence, how much value is there in a phone call from someone saying, "Hey, we got you," or here's a challenge, but we're right there with you, and here are 3 options I've got for you. So there's kind of a product side of that and a service side of that. But I wonder if you could speak to what that has felt like and how we've been able to sort of establish best practices there.
sure. Yeah, I think, starting with what I'll call the technology side of it, Drew, I think, the value of having a application driven process around communications is critical. You know, from my experience, it's grown over time, but you can get really antiquated, and it used to be, hey, I'm going to pass you data, and then it's a black hole, and I hope you create what was supposed to be created, and I hope what goes out looks right, and I hope it's on time. That's impossible to happen in these days, especially with how regulated it is, how much scrutiny there is on the member's experience as a consumer now. So having an application that can provide some flexibility over the process is really important. So when I think about the investments that we've made learning through the years on tools that will really help make your clients successful, a couple of things come to mind, right? So, we talk about the lack of time that healthcare organizations have to take in their enrollments, process them, and then get them all the way through the manufacturing and mail process to members' hands. Within that, you're going to need the ability to kind of indicate, what your priorities are. So one of the things from an application perspective for that reason, we built in things like priority indicators. So health plans can, within their data, either identify key accounts or performance groups, where they may actually have a performance penalty if they don't hit a certain SLA or service level agreement, and make sure that that's flagged within the data, because then the system will allow it to prioritize that over other work within their universe of work. And
Right.
it's a huge benefit, because oftentimes, as a service provider, you don't know that XYZ group is a PG group, and that if materials aren't in hand by a certain date, there's an impact on quality or scores, or even from a financial perspective of the plan. But
Right.
setting yourself up to recognize the data and have the system be able to prioritize that work, that's critical, right?
Yeah.
So that's come in, hugely helpful.
Yeah.
The ability to have our clients, what we consider have production control over some of their data, allows them to plan their work. And what I mean by that is, a lot of organizations have a huge amount of volume will come in, let's say in December, right? They want the benefit of being able to process that data, create all the end communications, but they don't want it all going out, right? They wanted to actually be able to perform quality control over it, see exactly what it's going to look like before they release it to production. So the ability to be able to process those files, hold them, look at them, and then release them when they want to is another critical piece of user-friendly application behavior that allows them to manage when things are going to go out. Because on the receiving end of that, healthcare organizations, they, like manufacturing facilities, have staffed up for member services. They expect a higher volume of phone calls. They have new members, they have returning members. So if everything was going out at the same exact time, right, the flip side to that is they're going to be inundated So their
Right.
metrics on how well they're responding to calls, how quickly they're responding to calls, how much they can have the ability to do research gets severely impacted. So having those tools in place to be able to process it, look at it, and release it as they want based on when they want things to get to members is a huge example of how people can use the technology to set themselves up for success.
So, I mean, just I'm thinking about, I mean, we have a client counterpart that we speak to, 3 times a week, but they're always connected up and down their own organization. So in those two examples, if our client just landed a huge commercial account and there is a performance goal associated with the SLAs that maybe the health plan put into their RFP that they were willing to meet, it really, correspondence is holding the bag of, can we with confidence say that we'll hit that SLA that led to that huge sale?
right.
To be a business partner on sort of the revenue side there. And then the other example you mentioned is huge cost decisions are being made around customer support, member support, other things like that. And can we be a partner in how that's throttled so that we're actually aligning with what their other cost preparation plans have been? Great points on both of them.
Well, and it's thinking through the experience that they want, or thinking through the experience that we think our clients or the health organization want their members to have and their groups
Right.
to have. And another one where it just comes to mind is you think about the ability to process those records and release them in this sort of a staged event to have a positive member experience. Another one is the accessibility and availability of the actual communication itself. So Clarity's built an application that allows for multimodal distribution. So we're talking about manufacturing and why you make some decisions around print and mail. It's critical. Being able to render and have that electronic version of the communication, whether that be through a web service or other, be available on a member portal that the health organization makes available to you as your member, or a mobile application, is critical. So processing that and having that integrated and available during high volume times, because there's one more element to all of this, right? There's the USPS, which is out there really working hard through year end, where they're competing with more than healthcare volume, right? The volume in mail services at the end of the year around the holidays is the highest it is during the entire calendar year. So there's a lot of competing factors that sometimes become outside of the health plan's control. And so knowing that there's access to that critical communication in a timely way or in advance of an effective date is critical. So it's another thing that the application needs to allow the organizations to have access to and do. And that's another area where we've invested, in addition to just critical reporting, which kind of goes in part of the second part of your question, Drew, is as we think about the account management side to this, right? What is the sort of importance and sort of judging criterion on a successful open enrollment? Well, communication is everything. We started out the conversation talking about forecasting and when that starts in the year, and using data as a place to help our clients understand what's happened historically. Communicating all the way through then the actual execution period of open enrollment on a daily basis is important. And we've built our application to be hand in hand with the communication process with our account management team, where our clients have full visibility into reporting in what have we received from them from a data perspective, what has been created, what's in queue to be created, when did things actually get made, when have they shipped, and obviously depending on the mail process, where is it in the mail process through an IMB or an intelligent mail barcode. That's critical, because again, information is key. On the downstream to that, our clients are providing information to their groups or to their members. Right. So to be able to have that visibility and access through the application and reporting and our account management teams to know exactly where it is and speak to it is huge. Because, where folks have a black hole of information, it creates a lot of energy, and it creates a lot of stress for people in a really stressful time. And, you're able to really de-stress that situation by having key communication plans in place every day. So almost daily touch-ins with reporting. And then, really at the end of the day, what are the escalation procedures? So things are going to happen in a high volume time, whether that's happening, as I said before, on the client side, or maybe there's something on the manufacturing side. Making sure that going into that period, everyone understands what the escalation procedures are, and who are the important points of contact and reach outs, and how do you work that triage is really, really critical. And again, that's 15 years of experience working with clients, and obviously experience for our team working within the industry and other places that have really built a pretty robust process that's all around communication and the visibility of it in the reporting. And that allows, again, our partners at our healthcare organizations to be successful with their leadership teams to provide information on how they're doing. Those days of a black box of I sent it, I'm waiting to find out.
You told me to send it, I sent it. Yeah.
And it's there, it doesn't work anymore. And anyone on this listening on this webinar, now or in the future would totally agree with that. So, you really gotta live that practice of best of breed communicating. You can't over communicate. And making sure that the data is available for folks to be able to self-report when they need to what's out there.
I'll brag for you a little bit with one of the statistics I know you're most proud of, which is around our net promoter score with clients. I think if we just did our previous years, it was in the 52 to 55, plus 52 to plus 55, which is, you start looking at the world through healthcare, and hearing numbers like 55 NPS are just unheard of. So I know that has a lot to do with the investments that have been made, not only on, how often were we talking with our clients in December, which I know was often, but also just the underlying investments that we've made to help. If your client can easily offer that answer when your largest, most strategic account calls and says, hey, what's the latest? And that's not a fire drill. That's well, let me get that answer for you real quick. Then it's all the difference in the world, but it doesn't happen without sort of the years of investment into making that easy.